Alright. It is past 12:20, I think it's 12:30. I'm trying to talk very quiet so I don't disturb my neighbors. But I might get pissed and I'm going to try my best not to be loud. They had no plan. This is what I believe. They had no plan. Now, we already knew that Shane had been involved, been talking with Tony, but he basically A6'd Shane McMahon because Shane wanted to have a stake in the company from what was rumored. And he said no, as far as anything is known. So now, no Shane McMahon, no Adam Copeland, who could have been the one who planned all this, and he's done. We get this. A show that was longer than it should have been. And in the end, what the fuck did we get at the end? I say again, they had no plan. None. Because it really feels like it was half-assed. Now let's get to the whole shebang. I did not watch all of 0 Hour. I only watched one match. When it came to Caster, there was some rumors that Bowman might come back, but I wasn't sure. So when I saw Anthony Bowman with a daddy ass by his side, I'm going like, okay, that's good. Why wasn't he on the main card? Why wasn't this on the main card? People went ape shit for Anthony Bowen. They love him. And you decide to bring him back on 0 Hour. When one of the matches could have been removed, you decided this. To do this. And I'm like, really? Everyone loved how the Acclaim worked. And they wanted to know what the hell were the Acclaim going to do after they broke up. And nothing happened. Now, I don't remember if Bowman was injured or not. He could have been. I could be wrong. I just don't remember. But he's now back. And he comes back on 0 Hour, which I believe didn't need to happen. Of course, he kicked his ass. Of course, he kicked Caster's ass. He's an ass. He gets his ass kicked every single time. That's his purpose. But I feel like they could have been on the main card. I don't know about anyone else. I'm sure they're going to say, no, they didn't need to be on the main card. It was short. It was less than a few minutes. And it could have been on the main card. That's just me. Moving on to the main card. Main card, the first match, which is for the Owen Hart Cup. The Owen Hart tournament for the Owen Hart Cup. And the shot at All In, I believe. No, not All In. Double or Nothing. I think it's double. No. To get to Double or Nothing. To find out who's the final one who's going to go to All In. Let me give it to you like this. Kevin Hart versus Will Ospreay was a damn good match. I've seen Kevin Hart for quite a while when he was on Impact Wrestling, or at least when he was there. And I knew he was good. He had a decent personality, he could talk, and he had a good look. And seeing what he did with Will proved that. He gave Will a great match for this tournament. It was fine. A great opener. I don't know about anybody else. I'm sure since they don't watch Kevin Hart unless maybe JD probably saw him in House of Glory. He probably saw him there. And I can understand if he knows him. I wouldn't be too surprised if he didn't know him. But I've seen him on Impact Wrestling. He's shown up more than a few times on there, so I know how well he can work. So I knew he was going to do well, and he did not win. It was Will. I knew it was going to be Will. And that's the thing that I need to say about this show. It was highly predictable for the majority of the match. Honestly. For the majority of matches now. I'm watching years late at night. Majority of the matches, they were mainly very predictable. Doesn't mean they weren't good. They were predictable. And this was a predictable win for Will. There was no way. No. Kevin was not going to win. Next match, a tag match. What did I feel about seeing the tag champions here? Well, they were in the right place on the card. Because, honestly, I did not expect them to be high on the card when they're dealing with Big Bill and Brian Keith. I'm sorry. I'm not against Brian. I'm not against Bill. I like Bill. And I like Brian Keith. But I didn't expect them to be higher on the card. It just wasn't going to happen. Now, the match wasn't too bad. Bill did the heavy lifting for most of the heavy hitting. And Keith took the beatdowns, which was not surprising. He did good, though. In the end, it was due to the fact that MJF hitting a Big Bill in the face with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. The Dynamite Diamond Ring. And I had to be like that because it was more interesting. Look, we knew MJF was going to do anything to get in. And seeing that Shelton and Bobby were not liking it. They did not like what they saw. They saw him. They saw Bill on the ground. And they knew something had to happen. So did a MVP who was on commentary. But let's make it very clear. And very, very clear. This had to happen because they want to show that MJF can get into the Hurt Syndicate. But the question is going to be, are they going to feud before they get into the Syndicate or after? That's going to be the big question. Next, the second Owen Hart Tournament match. We get a very, very sloppy, Mercedes Moné versus a Julia Hart. For the beginning and parts of the middle were sloppy. Sloppy. It was. Certain parts were sloppy. Now, mind you, they tried to cover it, and I believe it was Excalibur said it, or Taz said it. It wasn't JR. He was one in the first match. So I forgot to say that JR did do the first match with Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight. And I gotta say this, and tell me if you noticed. At first, it was like he wasn't into it. He felt sluggish. And that's JR. But near the middle to the end, he was perfectly fine. But it was like he just couldn't get into the groove at first until it reached really a fevered pitch. Now you could say that was due to the fact of him just holding back a bit. And that's possible. But it kind of felt like he just was not into it at first. He just wasn't. Not until they really started going all out near the end of Kevin Knight and Will Ospreay did he finally start getting really hyped for it and started really being able to keep up with everybody and talking like he wasn't like a step behind everybody. That was me. Now, in this third match, he was not there. And I kind of wish he was. Not because he could have gave it some energy. Maybe he could have said something to try and compensate for how sloppy both of them were being. Look, I love Mercedes. And I liked Julia. She wasn't bad. She has her moments where she'll mess up. This match had a lot of botchiness. A lot. And I'm going like, what the blue fuck did I just witness? I know both of them can do good matches. I guess they need to actually work together a little more so they won't look so bad. Because this was sloppy. I did not like this match. Yes, Mercedes won. But honestly, it was sloppy. I did not like it. Next match. We get Rated FTR versus the Death Riders for the Trios title. Look, I'm going to be honest here. I didn't expect the Death Riders to lose. And I was right. The Death Riders didn't lose. But I didn't realize Wheeler Yuta was getting so much heat. Since he started his career in Philly, they hated his ass. They were saying, fuck you, Wheeler. No, fuck you, Yuta. There you go. That's what they were chanting the most of, which was good. But damn, they hated his guts. But let's make this very clear. Was the match okay? Wasn't bad. For a trios match, it was not bad at all. But here's where this makes no sense. Let's put this in perspective. Who did I think was going to turn on who if the Death Riders won? I thought it was going to be Cash Wheeler who was going to turn on Dax and just beat the crap out of him. Because he was sick of seeing Dash, who tagged in ahead of Adam Copeland. He did. He tagged in ahead of him. When he was trying to get a tag from Cash, He put his hand out, and even Tony Schiavone said, I didn't like that. Fine. So I felt maybe Cash would beat down on Dax, who would basically lose his shit when it was all over. But no, what we got? Cash got a headbutt at one point from Adam because they were shoved together, and he was the one who had to eat the pin for Wheeler Yuta. So I'm like, no, it wasn't Dash. Was it Cash? No, it was Dash. But then when it was over, they helped up Cash. Or was it? No, they helped up Dash. And it was Cash. They were all together. You see Dax basically driving Adam's face into the mat. And then he gets shoved by Cash. But then basically we get a shatter machine. And I'm like, what was this? You had Dax acting like he was going to turn on Adam. Then you got Cash ready to turn on Dax. And then you have both of them turn on Adam and give him not one shatter machine, but they get 2 concertos to him. And he's now out. And I'm like, okay. You just set these guys up to stay a tag team, and you take out Adam, who might actually now work with Christian, because Christian has not been seen since he lost. And now you might see Adam get together with Christian to go up against FTR, so those two can become tag champs. That is the only thing I could think of. Only thing. Because if this is not going to be a match between FTR versus pretty much Adam and Christian, this made no damn sense. Because that's the only thing I could think of. That's it. Next. We get the match that, honestly, I knew what was going to happen. I knew still it might be a good match. But I wasn't looking forward to it. It was predictable. And that was Toni Storm versus Megan Bane. There was no way Megan was going to win. And this was the problem I was having. They have no women built up for a Toni Storm to go against. Nobody. And I'm like, what was the point? What was the point of rushing Megan Bane, making her win all these matches instead of building her up correctly and even explaining what Penelope Forbes was there for? But no, we didn't get that. We didn't get none of it. We did get a cool vid pack of a Toni Storm actually exercising in Philly, and it looked cool. But in the end, I'm like, really? Yeah, I will say that it was cool when it came to Luther. I liked what Luther did. And he was working, and he actually take Penelope Forbes out, sticking his tongue in. I think I'm putting pictures in. You'll see them right here. But honestly, I knew this was going to come down to Tony's. There was going to be 2 outcomes. One, you had to let Megan Bane win. But then it looks bad because you rush someone new in to just get a title. And we knew also if that happened, she wouldn't keep it long. When it came to this match, I knew 100% Megan Bane was going to lose. Yes, it was interesting to see Penelope Forbes being taken away. But I knew it was going to happen. It was so predictable because they have no one that's built up to be able to deal with Toni Storm. And that's sad. It sucks. Let's move on. Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Brisco. I didn't expect Mark to win, but it was nice to see him in a position where he could be something special. Unfortunately, you just give it to you like this. Mark should have been more important than just being stuck on ROH. Finally put him on to Dynamite TV, but in the conglomerate. And he could have been a TNT champion. But he didn't go there. Nothing. So for me, It's good to see him on TV, good to see him on a pay-per-view where he'll get some extra money. But for me personally, it just hurts knowing that they could have done more with him. And they chose not to. It just chose not to. It was a good match. It was a good match. Kyle did a great job, but Mark made it really work. But still, I didn't expect any more than that. Next, let me give it to you like this. The match that did not need to be on that card. Didn't need to be. It actually pissed me off. ROH Championship. Bandido versus Chris Jericho. There was no need for that match. There was no need. Yes, it was cool to see Bandido hold Chris Jericho up for a whole minute. Everyone counting. It was cool. Chris managed to do some good moves. Not great, but good moves. Because let's make it very clear. Chris is at the tail end of his career. He's over 50. He's about my age. I'm 54. Chris is about 53, maybe? I think he's a little bit younger than me by a couple of months. So I'm going to be 54 this year. I look my age, I know. I'm an old ass man. But I'm telling you here, he did do some good moves, but you could tell he just can't do what he used to do. And then you see the ending of this match where you thought, okay, it was interesting. Chris had to cheat to win, use a bat to nail Bandido in the face. Yes, the bad apple came out to help. But then they decided not to go through with it. Because remember, this match was title versus mask. If Bandido lost, he loses his mask. You could have just let him have the win. No. You had to do a double type of win. That was bullshit. It made it invalid. You have... Why would a ref outside Audrey Edward affect anything the current ref who was in the ring would decide to do? Just because you're hearing Bandido's mother and sister say, hey, they used a bat. He used a bat on him. She finds a bat. What does that matter? The match was over. And what do we get? Her showing it back to the ref. And now Justin Roberts says we're restarting the match. And I expected him to lose. And he did lose. And now everyone was happy with Bandido once he won the title. And then he goes over to the Spanish announce table. Not the English, which understandable. He goes to the Spanish announce table. He speaks on the Spanish mic that they have for the commentators, which we can barely hear. But I didn't care. Because it was bullshit. Bandido could have done this on Dynamite. They could have done this stupid skit on Dynamite. Here, at Destiny, no. Didn't care. Not only did I believe Bandido was going to win anyway, because I didn't see him take off the mask, they gave us something that could have been interesting. Yes, Bandido losing his mask. But then, we got that. It's bullshit. Next match, which was a very good match. The TNT title, Adam Cole versus Daniel Garcia. The focus at one point was, of course, Adam Cole's left ankle that was reconstructed with a cadaver tendon. That's so freaky. Freaky knowing that a cadaver tendon is is basically sutured into his own body. But they used it. I would tell you this. It was a good match. And then the reason they did it like this was because he had been working 17 years in the business. And to the day, this was his 17th anniversary. When they started saying that, I said, oh, they're going to let him have it. And they did. And to be honest, it's fine. It's not going to hurt Daniel Garcia much. He was a good TNT champion. Once Jack Perry dropped it, which we haven't seen him since. Don't know if he's still part of the company. He might be in the back. If he is part of the company, wonder when they're going to use him. But anyway, he won, not surprised. The best match of the night, the best, was Kenny Omega, Ricochet, and Speedball Mike Bailey. I know Speedball. He does a decent job. I know Ricochet, he does a decent job. And when it comes to Kenny, we didn't know how much of a decent job he could do because he had not been working constantly. Yes, he has done several matches now, but he has not been working constantly. So we got two guys who have been working constantly, with one guy who's only just beginning to get back into working constantly. In a match that majority of it, you got Speedball doing most of the work, along with Ricochet, where Kenny was kind of a step behind, which wasn't that much. I think more half a step behind. Because, like I said, he has not been working constantly and getting back into his full cardio and everything. Yes, he's been back for a while, but it takes time. And you could see when he first started, he was a bit sloppy. He didn't have enough speed, enough strength, and he's been building up slowly. And I felt that he was going to be the one that wasn't going to do the most work, which he wasn't. Speedball and Ricochet did. And the one that looked like he should have won was Ricochet, to be honest. But there was no way Kenny was going to win. Wasn't going to win. Not once. Wasn't going to win. He was going to win. But it was looking like, really, when you look at Ricochet, he looked like the best person to win it. Not Kenny. Not Speedball Mike Bailey. Ricochet. He just had it. He looked good. He sounded good. He's been working well. His personality's been good. For me personally, that's the thing that's been getting me the most. How, as a heel, he's been acting like a dick, which I felt was doing pretty well. And for me, I thought that was the best thing for it. But Kenny won. I'm not surprised. But then Okada comes out. Now both guys are staring at each other. Kenny had to get some water because his mouth was cotton mouth. But Okada comes out, stares him down. What does that mean? Does that mean they're going to finally combine the international and continental title into one? Doubt it. They're just going to have them go up against each other eventually. Maybe at Double or Nothing. They'll finally go up against each other, seeing who's the best champion. It would be better that one holds two titles. That's what I think that would be the best option. But you guys tell me below. Do you believe by Double or Nothing they should either combine the titles, which I'm sure they won't, or Kenny will be trying to go after the Continental, or Okada will be going after the International? That would be the best option. Because one of them should hold both. Not because I think both of them are great. It's because of their history, which they made very apparent more than a few times in this company's history, that Okada and Kenny have known each other for so long. They've always had battles. They have shown snippets of them fighting each other, so that's the best. Finally, where I was pissed. The final match, Jon Moxley versus Swerve Strickland for the AEW Championship. What do we get? We got, at one point, Marina Shafir getting involved and taking out Prince Nana. Then you get Moxley taking her out. Then you have the Death Riders coming out. Then you have the Ops coming out to attack them and drive them back. So that means they're trying to get the Trios titles, so they're going to do it. So you get Swerve bleeding from the head, a few dangerous spots, including a Swerve stomp on the Spanish announce table from a ladder. And in the end, we get, when it looks like we're going to finally move on from this storyline and finally do something new. No. This proves what I said before many months ago. When I say again, CM Punk said on a podcast what was going on in AEW pissed off the Bucks, pissed off at that point it counts not what condition and how much Kenny was involved, and pissed off a Tony Khan to do several things. One, show the footage of CM Punk attacking Jack Perry, which was stupid. Then they decided to do this storyline where the EVPs were in charge, but they were not willing to go all the way with it and keep a Tony Khan away because Tony, as a stupid fucker, refused to be off screen and there would be no interaction and no one would see him because there would be no reports. He refused to do that. Instead of being by remote for a while and then coming back, no, he was gone for a couple of weeks and then he comes back, driving Darby Allin, or was it a month? A couple of weeks, maybe near a month, driving Darby Allin back in. And then he was there. And the EVPs had no power. Then what did we get? We get a Christopher Daniels as an interim president, which didn't really have that much power at all, because he's still doing what Tony told him. And then we get this stupid storyline where eventually the EVPs lose their tag titles to Private Party. They have attitude, and then when the Death Riders show up, they disappear for not 1 month, but 6 months. And now, you see them back. And they know what's been going on with the Death Riders, but instead of taking out the Death Riders, and I haven't forgot about Hangman Page. Yes, Hangman Page was there. He did nail Moxley, which really didn't mean much, because after he was taken out by the Death Riders, he was a non-use at all. You see the EVPs nail Swerve and let Moxley win. And then they're going all cool and everything, but they're not looking at Moxley. They're not looking at Marina Shafir. They're not looking at the Death Riders. They're looking into the camera like it's all about them, when you see Moxley being taken away by Marina Shafir, just surviving. And I'm like, they had no plan. They're winging this. This isn't a plan. This is not a plan. What I said, the only thing that made the best sense was to have someone like Adam Copeland who was pulling the strings of Moxley. And if it wasn't Moxley, it could have been Shane McMahon, but that got thrown out the window as well. So now, 6 months being gone, either they were doing something. What did we really get? Nothing. Nothing. Yes, the Bucks are back. Finally, the Bucks are back. But what does that mean? Are they working with the Death Riders? No. Now we're going to have a storyline where the Bucks have finally come back, might be acting as stupid as they were before as the EVPs, but nothing has changed with the Death Riders. Nothing. We still have Moxley as champion, supposedly keeping the briefcase closed, and no one has seen the title since August of last year, if I'm right. I don't even remember. This was trash. I don't know about anybody else. They had no plan. None. If they had a plan, this would be better than what it is. And it's not. You now struck down Adam Copeland, who could have been champ, and it might have worked. Then you strike down Swerve Strickland. And to be honest, Swerve was their best shot. Because at this point now, people are going to say, there's no plan. They're just dragging this out because they don't know what to do. They have no idea what to do now. That's what this looks like. They didn't say that the Bucks are working with Death Riders, because they're not. They're just bringing the Bucks back to do exactly what they were doing as the EVPs. And then, if I'm right, because they still don't have a plan, the only option they're going to have, because they didn't really have a plan to begin with, would be the EVPs to turn good guy, and one of them is either going to go after the title, or they're going to bring someone in that's going to go after the title. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Now, I'm not saying it's right for either one of the Bucks to do it, and I don't believe it will be. But these are the very few things we got. Either one of the Bucks is going to try and become champ, which I don't think will happen, because it makes no sense. Or the Bucks is going to bring someone new into the company, and they're going to push that person to become the new champion. Do I believe that'll happen either? I believe that might be one of the only options left, because if it's not going to be Shane McMahon, then who? You guys tell me below what you think. Peace, because this is a stupid storyline. The Swerve was their best shot, and now they shot it down. What a waste.